Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. I need one of those. I need one of those arms too. One of those mic arms. An arm.
I have two arms. I have two. Oh, you mean mic arms? Yeah, I have one of those as well.
Yeah, you humble brag.
Hi, everybody.
Dave's like, I've got so many mic arms.
Oh yeah, coming out the ass.
I look like Doc Ock. I look like a podcasting Doc Ock. Joe Rogan's Doc Ock.
I want like 8 arms coming out.
Little podcast,
holding
little
the same
microphone
mic.
arms. Yeah.
Oh, hi everybody.
Oh, fine. Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Archive 81.
Archive 81.
What does 81 mean?
We're looking for an artist. Someone who can restore a recently acquired collection of damaged videotapes.
Well, what kind of damage?
Fire damage. There's just one hitch. Because the materials are so fragile, they can't be moved. So you'd be doing the work at our remote research facility. Creating this archive, putting this puzzle together, well, it would mean the world to everyone who lost someone in that fire.
I don't know. I assume it's based on a podcast, so I assume maybe it has some significance to the podcast. But boy, the title doesn't make a lick of sense based on the show I just watched.
So this is a show that. So is this popular? This show popular?
It's a little buzzy. It's a little buzzy this past week, and because there wasn't really a big new movie release this weekend, Dave and I were sort of thinking, well, we could go back and cover some streaming movies that we missed. We ultimately decided to cover Archive 81 because it seems like there's a little bit of buzz around it. It's kind of in our wheelhouse. And yeah, like you're trying to say, we both already watched it.
Yeah, we both happen to have watched it. I realized late we could have also done Hawkeye, but like, I don't. I'm not shitting on Hawkeye. It's just like, I don't know. Hawkeye.
I didn't watch Hawkeye.
Oh, okay.
I have not not seen 1 minute of Hawkeye. So
all right, you should watch Hawkeye. I enjoyed a lot of Hawkeye. I had some notes, but generally speaking, it was a delight. There we go. We're done with Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's not a show I'm avoiding. It's just it's very.
You haven't gotten around to it.
It's very hard for me to watch TV because it's such a time commitment. So I usually don't. I've brought this up, I think, on 11 different podcasts now, but I'm still only halfway through Squid Game. Like, it takes me forever to watch a show, even if it's one that I want to watch.
Here's what it is that, okay, and this is getting us to the subject we're going to talk about. It's hard for me to watch. In the case of Hawkeye, I was stuck on a plane that was, like, delayed, and so I just got to watch the entire thing. Because I was in a single place and I couldn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's hard to watch TV that I need to focus on. In other words, it's hard to watch TV that I give a shit about because then I have to sit and watch it.
It's the
easier.
Time commitment, right?
It's the time commitment. So it becomes easier to watch a show. Like, for example, Hannah has, she puts on like Drag Race or Great British Bake Off. Those are shows that I quite enjoy because I'm doing something else while it's happening, and it's a delight to, like, you look over from your screen and you get the point. And so Archive 81, I kind of finished because at a certain point I stopped caring, and so it was I wouldn't call it, like, I wasn't on my computer or anything, but it was like, I'll solve a crossword puzzle. Like,
mm-hmm.
I get the gist.
Yeah.
Or like, I'll watch it if I'm a little sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Other shows, it's harder to do that. to commit time, especially when the show really demands full attention.
Yeah, it's tough. There's only so many hours, and a TV show asks a lot.
It does when you get older, I think. Because I remember days where I just sit and watch something all fucking day. I watched True Detective in a day. Can't do that as much, you know?
No, it becomes more difficult.
Yeah.
So Archive 81, it was a good premise. I mean, we talked about it. An eye-catching premise, an intriguing premise. We talked about it on Hypecast, so it's it seemed like within our wheelhouse. So we watched it.
It also has largely good reviews.
Yes, yeah.
It's the reviews it's gone like its scores across the internet has gone down a little bit since it first came out, but it's still generally well reviewed. What did you think of Archive 81, Tom?
Okay. I thought it started real strong and then really peters out in the last couple of episodes. I really like the premise. I like the mood, but it kind of falls apart, I think, toward the end.
Yeah.
Especially when it reveals that it's going to continue for another season. It's like, boy, I don't see how you're going to do. Yeah. It's like you really should have. There's another show I watched recently that did the same thing. I'll just go ahead and say it. Yellow Jackets reveals itself to be that it is going to be a continuing series, and that like immediately deflated 98% of my interest in it.
That's a shame. Yeah, I'll say right now, I will not be watching season 2 of Archive 81.
No,
it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just I would call this like mid 2000s network TV level, where it's like it does have a compelling premise. But ultimately, it just felt like we can do better than this TV-wise now, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like it falls into the... It feels like a show that would have come out right after Lost came out. And was trying to be another Lost.
Yeah,
and ultimately, it didn't really need the mystery box element that it created. Like, it created such a thick mystery box that I assumed there was something better happening than what they reveal. It was like, oh, that's the thing I assumed was happening, and you're telling me that is in fact what's happening. Okay, like that was the obviously spoilers, people.
Yeah,
but it sort of starts implying like there's a cult in this.
Yeah, it's the first thing. The first thing you see is this old snuff film. I guess we should briefly run through the plot. It's about this guy named Dan who's hired by this mysterious guy who is Martin Donovan, Hap from Insomnia, the Al Pacino's partner that he accidentally shoots. I don't know if I meant to shoot Hap on purpose. I can't remember. I can't sleep.
You just summed up Insomnia. Good job.
It's the entirety of Insomnia. Yeah. That's all you need to know. So Dan is working for Insomnia, for Hap.
I think one of our patrons described it like they live in a literal like mystery box.
Yeah, he lives in a mystery. Yeah, he sends him to this. Martin Donovan's character is very conspicuously named Virgil. Virgil is Dante's guide through hell.
Yeah.
So Dan takes this job to restore. He's like a video file. He collects rare VHSs. He'll go to like lots and just buy lots of recorded VHSs just to see if there's anything interesting on them. He
works at
he works at a museum like restoring old videotapes. So that's kind of his bag. He's like obsessed with it. We learn his whole family died in a fire, so he has this sort of obsession with restoring old memories. So he gets hired by Virgil Davenport, who is the CEO of this mysterious company, to restore these videotapes that were recovered from a notorious hotel fire in 1994 at the Visser, I think it's called. Visser.
The Visser, yeah.
Also conspicuously titled.
Mm-hmm.
To sort of like put together what happened, and these videotapes were filmed by this woman named Melody, who was doing a college project on the hotel, so was filming it.
Think.
So we think, but we eventually realize that she is there for another reason, which is to try to track down her mother. She was put up for adoption at birth, and got a mysterious letter from her mom indicating that she was living at the Visser at some point. So she's going there under ostensibly doing this project, interviewing the residents about living in this building, but she's really trying to see if anybody there remembers her mom.
Right,
So,
which makes sense because otherwise that is the lamest project. Because she's just like, I'm going to interview people in this apartment building about like their lives and like, all right.
Yeah, it seemed weird. It seemed weird.
Yeah.
They did try to set it up by saying, well, the Visser is sort of like a famous landmark. It was built on top of the ruins of this creepy old mansion that also burned down. And there's creepy thing. It's like visibly a creepy building. It's kind of like the fucking Ivo Shandor's high rise in Ghostbusters, where it's very obviously cult shit was the reason this building was built.
Yeah.
So as he's reconstructing the tapes, he starts to notice spooky shit in them, and then spooky shit starts happening around him. He has to do the videotapes per Virgil Davenport's orders at this isolated research facility that they have, which looks
no
like
cell phone.
Yeah, it's got barely any cell phone coverage. Like you said, it looks like a literal mystery box. It's like a .com office, only everything's concrete.
Yeah, it's more the brutalist, like weird. Yeah, it's an impossible building. It's a building.
It's an office building from Blade Runner, basically, is what it looks like.
Right, but it's also in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. I mean, it's obviously like, if I saw that building, I would be like, well, this isn't a place anybody is living, but it's in the middle of a secluded forest. It really seems like a place that is up to no good. Like there's no other reason for it.
Yeah. I mean, in the show's defense, I think Dan kind of knows that he's being paid a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
to restore these videotapes by this kind of shady dude. They're not telling him a lot. Like
there's cameras in the
So he's kind of aware that it's shady, but then like by the end of the first episode, as he's restoring the videotapes, he notices on one of the videotapes that his father is there. So like from that point on, it sort of kind of excuses any time that you would be like, well, he should quit. Like he should get as far away from this as he possibly can. But it excuses all that because he has this very personal hook. Like his dad's there. He wants to know how his dad was involved because obviously his whole family died in a fire when he was a little boy. So yeah.
Here's where things for me started getting. It's not that this is like a plot hole or a character problem. It's more in the writing. Is both Dan and Melody in their timelines get to this point where they're aggressively against their environment, where they're living. Dan in this mystery box, Melody in this apartment, and they know something's up.
Yeah,
and that sort of that translates to them just being assholes. Does that make sense? Where like there's so many times someone like Dan or Melody will look at someone and just go, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like literally word for word.
Yeah.
They wouldn't stop having the characters say fuck you to people. And it's like, can you think of another way to make this work?
Yeah.
Because they're just coming off as really defiant, but they're not leaving either. So it's like this weird combination of like, they're just like really angry all the time.
Yeah, it's a curious writing thing where they're very, very combative in situations where they're trying to at least a little bit fly underneath the radar. I don't know.
Right, and it's like if you've decided to stay and play ball. Like then, like if you're trying to get information from these people, seem like you're into it or something.
I feel like there's at least 2 scenes, and I think there's probably more, where Dan has an angry confrontation with Virgil, and like what you literally said, it's like fuck you, and walks out. That happens more than once.
Yeah, it does. It happens a lot, and it's a part of it's like, can you think of another way to write this scene? But also, like, if they should also try. In general, it would have been more compelling if Virgil didn't realize any of they confront everybody always all the time.
Yeah,
like when he sees his dad. Yeah. And he's just like she'll in Melody, she'll go up to the people and be like, "You're in a cult. Fuck
Right.
you."
Yeah,
and it's like, stop saying it. They're gonna kill you.
Yeah, there's a guy in 1994 in Melody's timeline. There's a guy named Samuel who's clearly like he's like a professor, or something.
Yeah.
I think he's a professor, but like he's clearly like sort of the captain, like the community captain of the apartment building. Everybody sort of looks to him. He kind of dictates what's what. Nobody really makes a move in the apartment in the Visser without Samuel saying. And she almost sleeps with him on the first night. Like there's a little bit of attraction, but like from that point on, very quickly she discovers something kind of shady about Samuel. Like they're having this weird ritual in the basement in their community room around this stone idol that no shit looks like the alien from Independence Day.
Yes, once you, or actually before you texted me that was part of the thing that I was like excited about, is I thought for a while, because the beginning credits also imply that this was going to be alien related or sci-fi, and it kind of is, but ultimately...
I think it is. I think you could, it's Lovecraftian, so you could interpret this creature that they're praying to
as an alien, for sure.
Alien. It could be an alien, because like the whole point is that this cult is obsessed with this alien who is somehow related to this comet, and he can control, or it can control, like time. So if you pray to it and give it a vessel, it can open up a rift between its dimension and our dimension, and in its dimension, time doesn't exist, or it's more fluid.
Right. And it exists in images. So first photographs, and so we've gotten to this point where obviously we have really high quality video.
And now they're trying to capture it on video. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the cult, from beginning with the mansion that burns down, and then these people in the apartment building on top of it in 1994, and then now in the present, there's clearly some people who are still involved with the cult. They're all just trying to do this ritual to summon this demon, and they're trying to capture it on video. And the whole point is to open up a door to its universe, because he will give them power, I guess. I mean, what a cultists ever want? You know, that's fine. It's like, because time is fluid in that dimension, technically death does not exist. So I get it.
It's the ninth gate. It's what's his face? Pouring
fucking
gasoline.
Frank Langella.
Yeah.
Pouring gasoline. The fire's not burning me. It's like, give it a sec, Frank Langella. Yeah. It sure will. It's still burning the gasoline. Wait till it gets to your skin.
Achieve here, buddy?
Like, I love that fucking movie. He starts it out by like,
so stupid.
Like he holds his hand over a flame. It's like, I don't feel the flame. So right from holding his hand over a flame, he dumps gasoline on himself and sets himself on fire. It's
amazing.
Like, maybe stagger out the experiments.
Right. There's got to be something between those.
There has to
points.
be something in between holding your hand over a candle and complete immolation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's the basic gist. But like the what I was getting to is Melody very quickly learns that there's something fishy about Samuel, and she confronts him at least twice an episode about it.
Yes. And like, so they make this convenient thing in the show where at least Melody, they need her.
Yes.
But she doesn't know that.
No.
So if you're confronting a cultist and you don't realize that they actually need you, you have leverage. She doesn't think they have leverage. So at any point, they could literally just kill her in her sleep. She lives in the same building with them.
Yeah. She moves into the building for, plot reasons.
And I would argue Dan does this as well, but I'm not sure they need Dan.
Well, that's one of the reveals, is that Virgil does not, at least the way this season ends, doesn't appear to actually be bad. Like he's trying to, like, we learn that Samuel is his brother, because he's trying
to get his brother back, right?
No, he's trying to prevent he's trying to see what his brother was actually able to do with this cult nonsense, and prevent anyone else from doing it. Or at least that's the last that we hear from him in this season. You're right.
Which really begs the question, why doesn't he just explain that to Dan?
No idea.
Immediately.
Because then you don't have a show.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's all the decisions of the characters serve the mystery box.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a lot of people doing decisions that don't really make sense
Yes.
when you put it all together in the end.
And
this is a big one where Virgil is just acting really sketchy, withholding a lot, even when Dan's like, what the fuck is my father doing in those videos? Like you're right, that's why Dan doesn't get killed, because Virgil is just good.
Mhm.
So that just means he's just like being weird and withholding. And like Dan would, they would have the same interests.
Yeah,
where he's
it
like,
turns-
I'm just trying to figure this out too.
as it turns
Like-
out, they do have the same goal. Like they're
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what's happening on the video, and he needs
Right.
Dan to clean it up.
And he could literally say that
could just
to Dan
tell him that. You could
immediately.
just tell him that, but then we wouldn't
Yeah.
have a show.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll say, 'cause we're talking a lot about like what's stinky about this show. I like the premise. I'm a sucker for haunted videotapes and like haunted
Oh, me
paintings.
too.
I love
Me
that
too.
shit. Eat it up. Yum yum yum. And I did really like the mood of this, like kind of the vibe of this show. For the first several episodes, I was really into it.
There's a good vibe for sure. I
yeah.
will say it's not scary.
No, it's creepy. Like there's a good. I think
There's some creepy moments, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a good like steady simmer of creepiness, but like it's not ever really scary. But there's it's a good like it's spooky. It's like nice little spook 'em up.
I would say the more I learned, the less creepy it gets.
The less. Well, I mean, and that's what are you going to do about that? That's kind of like true of a lot of horror stories. It's like the more you understand about what's going on, the less scary it gets. But
I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily what it like that. That's not necessarily a good thing, you know. I would say this is like gothic mystery. For that reason, is like once you start seeing the demon alien, it's like, oh, okay then, you know. Like the more like I didn't get the feeling that they knew how to do horror moments as much as keep it at that simmer you're describing.
yeah, and
So,
there's
like-
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, except they do try. Like they do a moment where he sees the demon in the reflection, right? And it's just like, oof.
I will
Like-
say that helped set up a moment that genuinely did make me go like, oh, and it's you keep seeing the demon in reflections and like barely like in like static snow, like you'll see it start to form and stuff. So they set up that he'll see stuff in reflections, and Melody will as well. And then turn around and they'll be gone. And that builds to a moment in the last episode when Dan is actually able to cross over into the other world to try to get Melody back, and they're in the other world together. And she sees the demon in a reflection behind her and turns around, and it doesn't go away. Like it's still in the mirror behind her.
Right.
Like that was having those previous moments to build up to that, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes it like a little bit of a payoff. Like,
that's a cool device.
So you expect it to go away when she turns around, and it just fucking doesn't. I was like, oh no, get out of that room.
Yeah, and I'm honestly surprised more horror doesn't do that, because what we're talking about is a very common trope.
Yeah.
And so, like, you'd think more horror would do the trope where you see the reflection turn around and it's still standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a good idea for sure. But it is sort of also the only trick they have.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
There's the only part that visually really creeped me out was when he first goes into like that junkie apartment, and like you're not quite sure what you're seeing yet.
Yeah.
And for a second it was creepy, and then I said, oh, are those junkies? And then the guy comes in, he's like, these are junkies.
These are junkies. It was Melody.
oh,
Melody
right.
goes in there, not Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melody.
So like Samuel shows up. Did you I think we had this conversation, well, not this conversation, but this little tidbit in the Empty Man episode. Did you recognize Samuel?
Oh, is he? What is he?
His
What's
name is
going on?
Evan Jean Keat. He's in the Empty Man. He's Deputy Nick from Bone Tomahawk. Guy gets split in half down the middle.
Oh, and I'm looking him up. It turns out he's also Toad from X-Men.
Yeah, and he's the dead husband in the Rebecca Hall movie that just came out with the ghost that's in negative space.
The Night House.
The Night House, yeah. He's the dead husband
Right.
in that. And he gets stabbed and thrown off a mountain in the beginning of The Empty Man. So
he does.
He's really hammered out a niche for himself for being in these weird, creepy ass movies.
Yeah, I kind of want to see him like graduate to like something else in these movies, like main character or something.
Well, he's a main villain in this one, so good for him.
Yeah, that's true. Good for him. But I also didn't really care for this movie.
This show,
show.
It really, I was really into it, and then it kind of in the last, I want to say, definitely the last episode, but I want to say like the last 3 episodes, it really started to fall apart for me.
Well, you were texting me things that I realized like it had always kind of
right. There was always
it wasn't well written.
No.
It was the characters, again, as we've said, they sort of just exist to serve the plot points that they need to happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to it feeling like they're naturally getting to those places.
Yeah, there was a number of times, and I you're right, I was texting you as I was watching it, as I was noticing these moments, but I was kind of forgiving them because I was enjoying the vibe so much. So I guess it just became too much of it. But basically, the characters frequently will just do things for no reason just because the story needs them to. Like, for instance, this is like the clearest example I can. There's several of them, but the first one I really noticed was they make a big hullabaloo out of how there's no cell phone coverage in the mystery box fortress where Dan is working on these videotapes. So there's a scene where he wanders out in the forest to find a spot where he has coverage, finds a spot, and then ties a string around a tree branch there so that he can find it again. And at the time, I was like, oh, that's a really cool device.
Me too. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's going to come back. I know that's going to be important somehow. Like, he knows. First of all, it's just like a good trick, like for yourself. Like, oh, I'll think about that the next time I'm in a place with spotty coverage. But like you're thinking of all the ways how that could come back in like a spook 'em up show, right? Like, oh, the string could get moved, or like somebody could take it down. Anyway, so they have the point is they have a whole scene establishing that he looked for and found a spot where he had coverage and then left a marker there for himself so that he could easily find it again. After that, I think within the same episode, but it might have been in the next episode, it cuts to him wandering through the forest again, looking for a signal, and him stumbling upon this spooky cathedral that's boarded up. And it's like, it's completely ignoring the fact that we already saw him search for and discover and mark a spot where he has coverage. It's ignoring that because the script needed him to wander around in the woods and find this creepy cathedral.
Yeah, also
couldn't think of any other reason for him to do it.
Yeah, him marking that place, it ultimately
does not matter.
Yeah, like, here's the weird thing about that. They could have just said, you have cell phone reception in this house, and it wouldn't have changed the plot. Because it's the idea when they were like, there's no cell phone reception. I was like, classic horror. And then he's just making calls throughout because he can go out to the woods.
Yeah.
And so it was like, what? Okay, well, all right. Just give him cell phone reception in the house. You save yourself some production.
Yeah.
Like locations. I don't know why you did that. It's weird. It never serves the plot.
Because most of the time, cell phones ruin a lot of movie plots, right? Especially horror movies, because they're just like, well, you can just call at any point and like get help or get information or figure out where you are. So very often, what these movies will do is take the cell phones out of the equation somehow. So like they do that, but then they immediately put the cell phone right back into the mix.
Right, and
what
I thought is there was going to be a part where he's injured or something's after him and he has to go into the woods to call for help.
Get help.
And then we have spooky woods and he's looking for that thing on the tree. Never happens.
No.
Never matters. There's no reason for it. And it's a lot of that. I felt like the whole, so I get why they have his house get burned down and his dad die, right?
Sure.
But ultimately that doesn't really matter because at the end they're like, by the way, the cultists or these witches or whatever, they burnt down the house. And it's like, oh, all right. Like,
yeah,
like a lot of stuff like that where it's like, so that wasn't that, like he could have been killed in an alleyway. And they also do that thing in that flashback where he's playing the tune that turns out to be the cultist tune.
Yeah.
And his dad is like, why are you playing that? Don't play that. So I thought, oh, is he significant in the cult? do they ever explain why him as a kid was playing the same tune?
Like his,
did he hear it?
I think that has to do with the parabolic device of the time bending thing, like how it's the opening up the access to the alien's dimension kind of like makes time loop back in on itself. So like, and then when he goes into it, it's sort of like 12 Monkeys. Where it's
right,
like,
and I thought when he goes into the dimension and they try to trick him into his father being there, I thought they were going to try to explain it there. But the problem is it's so vague.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the issue with this it's why it really is like my least favorite form of mystery box. Not my least favorite, but my least favorite is obviously the ones that don't actually explain anything.
Yeah.
This explains it. It's just once it's explained, you're like, yeah, that's what I thought in the first episode. And then all those little extra things don't like. There's so many red herrings. It feels like that. Like it's like in the end, it was like so. It was the thing that I thought it was, and all that extra stuff didn't really matter. Not in any like significant or interesting way.
Because it's season 1, like that's the biggest reveal, honestly, to me, was that this wasn't a limited series and that they intended to go for multiple seasons. So I think maybe they'll answer some of those or red herrings or other little tidbits that they drop, because there's a lot of breadcrumbs they throw at you. And
let me tell you, I won't be there.
It's like there was stuff that was interesting, like the old lady that lives in the apartment building. She has this necklace that's made from a meteorite fragment, and like there's this whole thing about her sister who was actually her lover. They just said that they were sisters because of the time, to like excuse why they were living together, and like she painted her lover wearing this necklace, and then there was this whole bit about her lover killing herself by jumping into the off the bridge into I think the George Washington Bridge, one of the big ones in New York. So like there was that, and then there's the stuff with the Samuel keeping secret junkies, and then there's, like you said, the thing with the theme song that Dan's sister somehow knows, and we don't know why she knows that. She's just playing it on the piano and can't remember where she heard it. There was a lot of breadcrumbs like that for the first couple of episodes. You're like, wow, this is really creepy, and like I'm not sure what's happening. But as the season progresses, the actual answer is fairly simple. So all these other breadcrumbs are kind of just confusing. Like I started to lose track of a lot of threads because they don't end up tying together to like the main story. So I was like, oh, what is all this now?
Right.
And again, in fairness, this is season 1 of a show that is meant to be ongoing. So maybe that is all stuff that is going to eventually matter. But it just, for the viewing of this one season, it made it more confusing than I like. Like I don't want another Lost. I do not have that energy.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about the idea of a mystery box and the idea of more seasons of a show. Is like another show that very much touches on, cultists and like trying to figure out what everything means would be something like Lovecraft Country. Now, whatever your views on how that ended, I felt it had concluded while keeping things open. Does that make sense? Where it's like, it's that idea of like this plot that we've been following has concluded, but we've left these kind of threads to opening up the next season where it doesn't, and I think that's what they were trying to do here. But the problem is that, I had assumed there was a cult, and I assumed it was in the building, and I assumed this guy hiring Dan was involved in some way. And so it was like there was nothing more to really learn. And so all those extra things just felt messy. And so it's just like they never really promise anything with them or give us any new information by the end that makes that stuff compelling. So it all feels like stuff that was meant to throw us off that they probably said to themselves, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah. Or maybe they already have a plan, and it's just
maybe they do.
Like we've already pointed out that this is not very well written. So maybe they do have a plan, and it's just like they're not executing it very well.
Yeah, maybe.
There's a couple of things that really made me laugh that definitely weren't supposed to. Like there a lot of it centers on this snuff film that this kind of William Castle type character who in the 50s, this horror director discovers this snuff film, which is a film of the cult's ritual being performed in the mansion before it burned down. So he sees this video and makes a TV pilot out of it called The Circle, I think, which is already funny because of that terrible movie with Tom Hanks and Patton Oswalt. But he makes a pilot for a show called The Circle, which is basically the Twilight Zone, and it's a recurring theme throughout the season. Like, that's the first thing we see is like Dan is like obsessed with trying to track down this particular show, just because it's extremely rare, and he's obsessed with rare footage.
Right.
So like that show it's like I love that kind of shit. Like that really scratches an itch in my brain of like, oh, spooky old footage that's tied to like a spooky character and a rare TV show that's like been buried, and like, oh, what sort of crazy crap did they get up? And like spooky old Hollywood really appeals to me, but it sort of winds up like, no, it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't have anything to do with anything. But
that stuff was all like supplemental. It ties it like. It's not a mystery, like they answer those questions.
Yeah.
But like how the movie tied in, they're just like, oh yeah, and I guess your uncle was kind of interested in this.
Yeah, it was just, it's just the ritual they do. That's all it was. And it's
like
all I'd ever...
the character, the movie guy, was just like some guy who saw the ritual once.
He was just some guy. That's it. He saw the video, became obsessed with it, thought it was really resting, and tried to make a pilot out of it, and it didn't go. Like that's... And I think maybe that'll come into play in the second season if they do one. Like his daughter is a character in the 1994 sequences, and in the beginning of the season, like they acquire the footage of this show because she put it up for auction and then she dies. So that'll probably be something creepy happening around that. But like the fact that it's this repeated image and it's like such an offer to like me specifically because of what I mentioned, like how I just all that stuff like really interests me in terms of making a spook show. To just have it be so inconsequential was a big letdown. But anyway, because it is just the ritual. It's just the ritual that they do. That's it. That's all it is. There's no deeper secret behind the video, as intriguing and mysterious as it is.
Right, and then they show the ritual, like they show that specific ritual happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, we saw it. Yeah, we know what this is. But what I was getting to is that one of the fucking most unintentionally hilarious moments of this season is as we see there's a flashback episode that to the people in the mansion doing the ritual. So we see that ritual happen real time, and then we see in 1994 Samuel repeats the ritual with another victim that's supposed to be the host for this alien. And in both situations, what it is they get around, they do this creepy chant. I will say the chant is very effective. Like that's the creepiest thing about the show.
Yeah,
it's the music, and then the way it's like it's a weird tempo. So it's not like it doesn't immediately. It's like arrhythmic almost, and then there's a lot of like just breathing in it. It's very creepy.
It's very funny when a character is like. They like have a character hear it and they're like, oh, that's a pretty song or something like that.
It absolutely isn't. It's like the scariest song ever made.
Yeah. Hard disagree. Disagree.
Oh, that's pretty. What is it? Oh, it's an old Irish lullaby. I'm like, the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Maybe an Irish one. Anyway. So in both the rituals, they do this chant, and then they have this person who's a sacrifice. They slash their throats, and then the alien demon, whatever it ends up being, the Independence Day alien, will be able to cross from its imprisoned realm into ours. So in both in times they show us the ritual, the person who gets their throat cut drops immediately, like they got a cattle piston to the temple.
Yep, which is very funny.
Like it's just like they flipped their on switch to off. Like they flipped their switch to dead, and they just collapse on the ground, and it's very funny.
Yes, they also don't know it's happening, so it's just like shoop. That's very funny. You know what's also funny? When they perform the ritual at the end, his podcasting buddy who didn't really need to be in it is like, I'm not going to get my throat slit for this. We don't have anybody to sacrifice. And the woman who is now like the exposition machine, who they really sweatily work her in to earlier episodes.
Yeah, she's this groundskeeper that's lurking around the mystery box fortress where Dan is working, and the reveal is that she is actually Melody's mother, who is this witch, part of this society, who's trying to keep the demon from crossing over, and like that's who Virgil is working with.
Right, and it's so obvious that she's something.
Yeah,
because she shows up in a few scenes to be like, remember me, I'm a character, and then leaves, and then at the end it's like, dun dun dun, it's her. But when they do the ritual, and he's like, I'm not going to have my throat slit, and it basically comes down to her being like, no, we don't need to do that for this one, and then they don't.
Yeah,
and it was like, wait. Yeah, so that wasn't...
She just cuts her hand and is able to do a spell and open the gate herself. It's like, oh, we could have just done this the whole time?
Well, what's wild about that is the past rituals still need them to cut their hand. They need a blood of the witch, right? So
yes.
That's in one... So they do this thing where they set up that he has a bunch of blood in his basement too, the rich guy in Dan's timeline.
He has a bunch of his company,
because they have a
they own like a company, what is it called, like the something, it's a number in you, 23andMe, I think it's, they basically so they could track down somebody that had this lineage.
Right, and so the idea is they need Melody in the past because she has this lineage, and he cuts her hand and uses her blood on the statue. But then they, on top of that, kill somebody.
Yes.
Separately. And so that's where it's like, okay, so you need to sacrifice a life and you need this witch's blood. And then once you get to the modern version, they do something that I thought was going to be smart, which is so Dan decides, I need to open this portal because Melody, he learns Melody is in the portal. So I need to open the portal to get Melody out. So we're going to do this ritual. And he goes downstairs to where all the blood is stored. And it was like, oh, that's cool. He's using the blood bank to find the lineage. And then that doesn't matter. He brings the blood in, and then the mom shows up. And she's like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. So we didn't need that at all, huh? And then she's the mom is like, yeah, we also don't have to sacrifice anybody. And it's like, oh, so none of this.
Why didn't we just do this before?
Yeah.
It was,
so none of this matters.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, it was just another instance of they needed something to happen. Right. So it just happens.
Right, because it would have been neat to have a situation where it's like, shit, we need to sacrifice someone to save her.
Yeah.
And like, what are you going to do about that? Who are you going to sacrifice? Is it worth it? These are all complex questions that the writers were not interested in asking.
Not at all.
So they just wrote it so that the ritual changed for no reason for the last one. Yep. And they have the mother say something that's just like, nah, we don't need that. She says something like, well, we're not trying to summon the demon. We're just trying to open the portal.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the difference? So it's very messy in its execution and writing. It's all about, it really feels like it's that top down where they thought of spooky moments and then they wrote a way to make those moments happen as opposed to thinking of a story.
They just have characters do things that make no sense to have those moments and just move the plot along.
Remember the drawing?
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the drawing doesn't fucking matter at all, does it?
It's only to serve as exposition.
Yeah.
So they can finally learn, oh, she's in the there's like a friend of Melody's Annabelle, and I don't know why, but she becomes suddenly, I guess it's this, they work in this idea that there's like a muse element where it's like artists, it's an artist cult. Sometimes?
Yes. It's more the fungus. So like,
fuck, I forgot about.
You forgot about the fungus. There's like a Stranger Things element there, where it's like this fungus that will start to grow if you do a little dance and try to contact the demon. This fungus from its world will start to invade your world, and the people in the apartment building have, like, that's what the junkie wing is for, basically. It's like all the junkies are in there with this mold. And so like what happens with Annabelle is the old lady in the apartment building gives her paints that are made from the fungus. So the fungus starts to like get into her brain and possess her basically.
Wait, so when did what causes the fungus?
I think making the connection with the demon. They explain it briefly and I forget exactly what it was, but like reaching out to it without doing the ritual. So like what happens in the flashback episode in the mansion before it burns down is that they do a version of the ritual that doesn't have any of the blood yet. Like they don't have a vessel for the demon and they don't have the blood on the statue. Or maybe they do. No, they do have the statue at this point. So they get the statue and doing the chant around the statue gets them to make contact and they take a bunch of pictures of it and they can see like, it's like spirit photography. You can see the demon behind her. So like establishing contact, I think is what makes the mold start to grow on that site.
Right.
Like,
and the mold doesn't, the mold is like a weapon they use for mind control, and they give it to Annabelle. They use it sometimes on junkies or like for creativity. They give it to the girl they're also going to sacrifice.
Yeah, I think it's like readying you. It's like a piece of its dimension and sort of like getting you all lubed up to be in the alien dimension, I guess. I mean, it makes as much sense as it needs to.
That's sort of most of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Stranger Things, and I realized this is an algorithm show, right? This is them looking at Lovecraft Country and Stranger Things and all those and being like, get us another one of those.
This is very much like Lovecraft Country and Stranger Things colliding in a blender and being written poorly.
Yeah, this one feels disingenuous. Like what those shows have that made them something everybody's talking about is that they felt like they were at least written from a perspective of like care.
Yeah.
And this feels more cynical to me. This feels like they wanted to get that result, but they didn't really have a story. And they didn't really care to think too hard about it.
It feels like, I totally see what you're saying. I hesitate to call it totally cynical. I think this feels like the pop horror version of Lovecraft Country and Stranger Things. And it's Stranger Things. It's like they're both of those shows, Stranger Things more so, are kind of pop horror adjacent, but I wouldn't necessarily call them pop horror because they're a little bit more thoughtful.
Well, here's what I'll say is the big difference is both of those shows, for all their flaws and benefits and such, they think about their characters.
Yes.
They're focused on the people.
Very much so, yeah.
None of these characters I gave a shit about.
No.
Because they had very little personality. They never really did much to make them likable. And it's a lot of people just saying things about them.
Yeah.
You know, we learn about Dan's past because people say it.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, hey, you're not going to do anything again, are you? You know how you have an issue with mental health. Like, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of the Virgil being like, we did a background check on you, and I'm going to tell you the things about you that I know. And so, like, there's a lot of charisma missing from the characters.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's not character driven. Like we said, it feels like their decisions are based off of how to get the mystery box. This was an issue I largely had with Westworld as well, where it was like characters just did things or withheld things or tolerated things because if they didn't, we wouldn't have a mystery.
Yeah.
And that makes them not characters. It makes them mannequins that the writers are like moving around the scene by scene.
They're rats in a maze.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's really there's such a lack of charisma. Yeah, for sure. Which is a shame. There's a lot of good elements here.
And I would say all of these actors seemed like good actors. Like this has nothing to do with the actors. It's all about like I don't feel like you gave them stuff to do.
There's a couple of weird accents in this, like some of the and it made it. Annabelle has a couple of strange deliveries, but that actress is English, so I think that has something to do with it. And then, like in the flashback sequence, the actress who's playing the main cult leader, I forget what her Iris, I think is the character's name, is supposed to be British, but it's like a really shaky British accent. So like there wasn't too much. The kid's good. There's a little girl that lives in the apartment building that is going to be like the focus of the 1994 ritual that Melody forms an early friendship with. So yeah, there's the acting is totally fine for most of it. There's just a couple of weird deliveries, so I can't
There's
really...
only so many times you can say "fuck you."
Right, there's only so many times you could have the same scene of you storming in indignantly, screaming "fuck you" at a character, and the character being like, calm down, are we cool? Are we cool now? Yeah, we're cool, but fuck you still. All right, but we're still cool, right? You're still going to do the thing so we can still have a show? Yeah, and then they leave, and that's the scene.
Yeah.
That scene happens at least once an episode.
Yeah. It really does. I can't stress enough that at least more than one time a character does the "fuck you" and walks away.
The "fuck you" storm out scene. It happens. Yeah. No kidding. Probably once an episode at least.
They really lean on the word "fuck" in general as like,
especially towards the last half.
Swear.
Yeah, especially towards the last half. It's really like, obviously we're not prudes here or anything, but it's you're right. It's like it seems like they eschew any other swear word except for fuck in the show. Yeah,
what I mean by that isn't being like, oh, they're saying the F word too much. It's more of like I'm imagining the script writing, and at no point did the writer say, like when you're writing in general, I try to do this as much as possible. If I feel like I'm leaning on a specific word, I'll do like a Control F, and I'll look. And like it might not even be a particularly like strong word. You'd think they'd be like, man, characters just keep saying "fuck."
We're saying "fuck" a lot. Yeah, let's change it up. Can we
have them?
Let's mix it up.
Have them say "shit." Like it's that basic where it's like it's just the repetition feels sloppy in a way that you would do a second or third draft and you'd notice that and go, oh, I'm gonna make this a little more dynamic.
Yeah, it's another signifier of subpar writing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt by saying it's cynical, because it feels more of like, let's just write this.
Yeah,
like that. This is what they want. They want this fucking mystery box show. All right, let's just write it out. Nothing really makes enough sense. We're not going to try hard enough to like really explore these questions. Or the potential of this premise, or even really spend a lot of time thinking about what the characters are thinking in any given scene. So it just sort of, I don't know. Like, you're right, the first half of this is better than the second.
Yeah,
but even the first half, I wasn't, by like 3 or 4 episodes in, I had this moment, and because I was watching with Hannah, and I was just like, so we're committed to this show. And she's like, yeah. And it's like, but it's not a great show. And it's like, yeah. It's like, okay, like it was that. It was like I'm perfectly fine watching the show because I'm in bed. I got a few more hours before I want to like go to sleep. I got my crossword puzzles, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
You watch TV like a 68-year-old man.
I absolutely do.
In bed with a crossword puzzle.
Yeah. Yes. It's the fucking end of Fargo in our house, where we're like sitting in bed watching TV. It's fine. It's fine. I've accepted this about myself.
Sure.
And so the point is that as something to watch, if you need something to watch and you don't need to think about it too much and you don't care, it's fine. It's acceptable. But the moment they were like, ooh, season 2, we haven't even gotten to the fact that Dan at the end goes back in time to the 90s.
He's stuck in 1994, and Melody, they switch places. Melody's in the present, he's in 94.
Yeah. In fact, very specifically, he goes to the moment Kurt Cobain was announced dead. That's how they signifies the 90s.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It was very funny to me for this scary music to be happening and this like reveal.
It's the MTV News report. Yeah. Kurt Loder on MTV News giving the announcement that Kurt Cobain was dead.
It was like, Kurt Loder, and it was like, oh no,
I'm in the 90s, and
they and then of course they zoom out and you can see the reflection of the World Trade Center, and it's like, no, I got it, show. You don't have to. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
I understand. Like I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't need that.
You gave me enough clues when he kept asking the nurse what year it was and she wouldn't answer him. Like, I already knew. I didn't need to see Kurt Loder and also the World Trade Center.
Right, and I think you texted me this, and that this is the best way to describe this show is that it thinks we're idiots.
Yeah.
And it really is going all the way back to its network TV post Lost, where it's like it really spells everything out. It doesn't complicate. It doesn't ask a lot of complicated questions or deal with morality. Everything's very straightforward. They tell you, don't worry about these things. And so there's a place for that type of TV. It just felt to me of like, man, like, I don't know. We should probably expect better.
Yeah, I mean, there was people involved in this,
Yeah.
Benson and Moorhead directed episode 3 and 4. Those are the guys that did Spring and The Endless.
Oh, and they're fantastic. I love them.
They have a new movie out called Something in the Dirt that I'm really excited to watch. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, is that out?
No, I think it's a Sundance movie. I think I'm just starting to see like buzz about it. So I think it's a Sundance movie. Anyway,
right. Well, again, all right. So going on the direction, this is very well directed.
Yes.
This is like all of that stuff. It's like, yeah, this all like good performances, good direction. It just ultimately didn't feel like they did enough in the writing. And then the idea of asking, like, ending with, and so stay tuned for season 2. My thought was like, no, I don't think I will.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I don't. You really didn't impress me enough in the story that I would watch season 2.
Yeah, I do want to go back and landed though.
Yeah, I do want to go back and watch the Benson and Moorhead episodes, knowing that though, because I really like the movies they make.
Yeah, it's episodes 3 and 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's early.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But yeah,
I don't have anything else to say.
Holy shit! I'm sorry. Holy shit! Sorry, I just clicked on Moorhead. You know what else he's directing?
It's Moon Knight, right?
It's Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Are you fucking me right now? Oh, I'm so excited for that.
I am not fucking you. No.
Oh fuck! Fuck! That makes me really excited.
Yeah, man.
Holy shit! Yeah, they've directed all 6 episodes.
They sure did.
Oh, fuck.
So,
fuck yeah.
I had forgotten that when we were talking about Moon Knight on Hypecast last week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm even more cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it's at least going to look good.
It will at least look really good. Yeah. So that'll be cool.
I would love them to get to write more stuff, because that is a lot of their strength as well. Like, had they written Archive 81, I bet I would have really liked it. But yeah,
probably would have been a little similar to The Endless.
Yeah, a little bit. Fuck, everybody go see Spring and The Endless and Synchronic. I liked Synchronic too.
I haven't watched that one. I need to.
It's good. Fuck. All right.
So that's Archive 81, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Check it out or don't.
Yeah.
You understand now where
you see where we're coming from. We expected more from the writing. But there's some good spook 'em up bits in there. I don't know. You may enjoy it more than we did.
Yeah, it's a fun show. I have very little patience for Mystery Box.
Yes.
And
I am at least thankful that they answered all of the important questions pretty much in this season.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, don't leave any. Yeah, because I hate when I have to keep watching a show just so that I understand what has happened in the show.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, if I'm phrasing that correctly, like just characters inexplicably withholding pieces of information is frustrating to me. Anyway,
yes,
we've talked about that before, but that's whatever. That's not the only issue we had with the writing. As I think we've made our case. That's fine. We can be done.
I don't feel like I need to explain myself.
No, I think I've done a fair job of that.
Explain myself to you people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We should probably wrap this up. Listen, folks, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there, there's some exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. There's also Star Trek The Next Futurama and Spielboys. Both of those, we're going to get new ones for that on our channel very soon. So keep an eye out for that.
We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of things. Check that out.
Check it out.
Check it out.
And go watch The Endless in spring.
Yeah, do that. Do that stuff.
Yeah, do that.
You goofs.
And I guess watch Moon Knight. If there's anything I got out of this, it's that.
Well, I'm going to go bleed on a statue and see if I can go back. I'm going to go bleed on an Independence Day toy and see if I can go back in time.
Yeah, bleed on statues, folks.
Yeah, bleed on statues until they send you back to the day Kurt Cobain died.